Hey there everyone, that sexy nerd is back again. And I'm here in Florida again. And, well, I am watching, we're doing something a little bit different here. I'm watching Brandon Tenold's Godzilla 1998 review. Now, I don't know if I'm kind of not cheating, but like going a little differently here because this is new and I've seen the Nostalgia Critic Godzilla episode so many times. But if you want me to do it, let me know in the comments. But this is brand new and I honestly want to see if it's really funny. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Brandon Tenold. He's basically he's kind of like someone in between Nostalgia Critic and Cinema Snob. He has he uses his dry sense of humor, but he's still a little bit more upbeat, I want to say, than Cinema Snob. Cinema Snob is actually more like he's not as silly or something. I don't know. I'm just hoping he doesn't turn into Dexter and murder me. But yeah, he's the biggest. The reason why I love him the most is because he's a huge Godzilla fan. And I mean, come on. It's really great to watch videos from Godzilla fans because I love having that connection because, when we were growing up, Godzilla just didn't seem, it didn't appeal to everyone. But I remember when this movie came out, everybody was like, yeah. But then after everybody saw it, they were all like, boo. And I was like, why? I love that movie. So, yeah, it ended up not being a hit, but I've always loved it. I've always maintained, it's not a great movie, but it is a fun movie. But my God, I think Nostalgia Critic instilled a hate for Matthew Broderick for me because, my God, the guy cannot act to save his life. Oh, I don't know. I've never seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you want me to watch that movie, by the way, let me know in the comments section. It's about time I watched it. But let's not discuss that anymore. Let's just get into the episode. And remember, please smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content. And subscribe if you think I deserve it. And let's do this thing, y'all.
This is New York, and imagine a giant lizard bigger than all the buildings on Manhattan. That'd be Godzilla, where size does matter.
Hell yeah, it does. And since it's my 300th episode, I think I'll ditch the low-budget movies for now and tackle a big, bloated Hollywood popcorn flick. I did all of the Heisei Godzilla flicks, and this one is technically the next Godzilla movie released. You wanted Godzilla? You got Godzilla.
Well, kind of.
Kind of.
It's Zilla. There's no God. The God. But I love it. By the way, how many of you guys watched the animated series and also found it much better? Because the Godzilla from that show was fantastic. I was like, man, that's the Godzilla. He actually breathes fire or atomic flame, whatever the hell he was breathing in that show.
Ooh, boy.
And Matthew Broderick could act. I mean, not Matthew Broderick. The worm guy. What's his name Nick Totopoulos, yes.
Boy, the 1998 Godzilla. Yeah. Is there a movie that invokes more anger and bad feelings among G fans? Well, I can maybe name one. But not only is it my 300th episode, it's also the 25th anniversary of the first American attempt to bring Godzilla to movie screens. So now it seems like the perfect time to take a look back at a movie that was supposed to be a sure thing, but ended up being a disappointment. But first, a little history. Attempts to make a big-budget American Godzilla movie go back further than you may think.
Really?
In the early 80s, Friday the 13th producer Steve Miner tried to make an American Godzilla film called Godzilla 3D, where Godzilla would have been brought to life using a combination of animatronics and stop-motion animation, but Hollywood studios thought his proposed budget was too high for what they considered a children's film. Then in the early 90s, TriStar got the rights to make an American Godzilla film, which was originally going to be made by Speed and Twister director Jan de Bont. This one got pretty far into production, including a finished script, storyboards, and monster designs from Stan Winston's studio. Toho even made a teaser trailer that got shown in Japan.
All new American version, Godzilla.
However, this one also fell through, again because of budget concerns. Eventually, the project landed in the laps of producer Dean Devlin and director Roland Emmerich, who had both made Stargate and Independence Day, a decision that would ultimately prove controversial. Emmerich would later admit that he didn't even like Godzilla and only took the project if he was free to change the character however he wanted. And this is a valuable lesson for Hollywood studios. If somebody isn't a fan of the thing they're adapting and doesn't really want to do it in the first place,
Don't hire them.
they probably shouldn't do it. Of course, I didn't know about any of that at the time. I just knew they were making an American Godzilla movie. And my anticipation was helped by the fact that the marketing for the 1998 Godzilla was
fantastic.
awesome.
Yeah.
This movie had some of the best teaser trailers ever. A lot of people
Seriously.
remember the one with the guy going fishing where Godzilla wrecks the pier, but my favorite is the one that starts in a museum.
That's my favorite.
Tyrannosaurus rex, about 70 million years ago, averaging 19 feet in height.
Put that
This
metric on.
creature was believed to be one of the largest predators who ever lived on our planet.
I was always like, when I was a kid, I used to go to the American Museum of Natural History like all the time. I know, shocking. A dinosaur nerd wanted to go to the American Museum of Natural History. But I was always like, why aren't these animals in here? I was so mad when I went back after I saw this. There it is.
That is awesome.
It
And the
is.
pre-release hype didn't stop there. There were toys,
Toys.
Taco Bell collector
Yep, I
cups,
had those.
music videos. There was a marketing blitz behind this movie. And this was all summed up by the movie's tagline, "Size does matter." Yeah, this is one movie that wanted to let everybody know that its dick was bigger than other blockbusters' dicks. As a young Godzilla fan, I was hyped for this movie, and it was easily the one I was the most excited for that year. So when it opened, I rushed to the theater to go see it. And like a ton of other people, when the movie was over, I went, huh. That was, Actually, that's a little better than what a lot of people thought of this movie, since not only did it end up getting savaged by critics, with many calling it one of the worst movies of the year, but G fans hated it too, to the point where many don't even consider it a real Godzilla film. It wasn't long before...
See, hated Godzilla's design. Yeah, he just looked way too hunched over. He didn't seem like Godzilla. Yeah, he roared like Godzilla. That was like the only thing that really kind of left me to not hate the movie, but I just never was a big fan of the design, and that's why I also agree with the sentiment that, it's not really Godzilla. And besides, he gets shot down by planes. When the hell has Godzilla ever been taken down by a missile? That doesn't count.
where the movie devolved into a punchline, usually only getting mentioned alongside other infamous stinkers of the time like Batman and Robin, Wild Wild West, and Battlefield Earth. But hey, the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie was hated when it first came out, and that's managed to build a cult following over the years.
Why?
So let's see if the 1998 Godzilla is really as bad as its reputation would suggest. It's pretty well known that the original Godzilla film was meant to reflect Japan's post-war anxiety about the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Well, in this version, while Godzilla is still the result of nuclear testing, instead of it being America's fault, it's the French who are to blame. Yeah, American audiences probably didn't want to feel responsible for creating a monster, but if all else fails, you can always blame the French. What are they testing these nukes on, anyway? Yeah, I'm pretty sure those lizards are dead. Oh yeah, that's another difference between this Godzilla and the original. Instead of a resurrected dinosaur, he's an iguana. Actually, considering his original name is Gojira, which is a combination of the Japanese words for gorilla and whale, if they had made Godzilla a gorilla whale monster in this movie, I wouldn't have minded that. Whoa, what's this?
You wouldn't have minded it. Anyway, speaking of which, just for a little nerdisms and the nerds out there, the lizards in the before they showed the swimming iguana, the lizard that was swimming in the water, that was a marine iguana. So that's who Godzilla was. But those lizards were actually technically not lizards. Those are called tuataros, an ancient reptile that's technically not a lizard, even though it looks like a lizard. It's way too much to explain right here. I could, I'd have to make another video.
A ship in a storm at the beginning of a Godzilla movie? I think I can probably guess where this is going. Bad news, fellas. It looks like there's a giant turd headed right for you, which is also what most of the reviews for this movie said. I gotta admit, this is actually a pretty decent opening scene. You can't go wrong with a ship in a storm at the beginning of a kaiju movie, and because you don't want to give away your monster right away, just showing stuff like his claws coming through the side of the boat and his tail hitting the command center are pretty effective at building anticipation. So far, the movie's not off to a bad start. And then we meet our hero. Yeah, there he is. Matthew Broderick plays Dr. Nick Tatopoulos, a biologist studying the effects of radiation on animals, and yeah, that's about all I can say about him. Okay, here's the thing about Matthew Broderick's character and performance in this movie. It's not that he's annoying or an unlikable asshole or anything. He's just
all those things?
Kind of dull. And I know what some of you are thinking. Well, the human characters in the Japanese Godzilla movies weren't exactly memorable either.
But you don't spend that much time with them?
Which is true, but considering this movie is about 45 minutes longer than a typical Godzilla movie and spends a lot more time with the human characters, I would have liked if our protagonist had a little more to him than just he's kind of an awkward, nerdy scientist. It seems like they were trying to go for a Dr. Ian Malcolm type here, but Jeff Goldblum pulled that off way better.
Oh, there it is.
Actually, there is a little more to Nick's character. He apparently hasn't gotten over his ex from college and still carries a bunch of pictures of her around wherever he goes. Yeah, because you know how that's charming and romantic and not weird and creepy at all? Apparently. Nick is named after production designer Patrick Tatopoulos, who's also responsible for Godzilla's new design in the movie. And I guess Roland Emmerich must have thought his name was hard to pronounce since they turned it into a running gag here.
By the way, you ever see this guy? He always plays someone in the military. Was he an actual instructor or something? I don't know. I really want to know because, like Arlie Ermy, because man, he's always the military guy. You see him. He's like, look at that. That's the military guy from the Transformer movie, first Transformer movie, and then for some reason. You see him die, or at least the base blows up, and there was like no survivors, and then he's somehow in the second movie. The hell? Is he I don't know. Different character? Same guy? I don't know.
Nico Topopoulos. It's the Topoulos.
Did you like that joke? Well, you better, because they're gonna say it several more times in this movie. The movie also stars French actor Jean Reno as a French Special Forces operative, and I would make a joke about this being his worst English language movie, but that is not true at all. He's also the first guy to find out what the monster's called.
What did you see, old man? Godzilla.
Hey, this is an American Godzilla movie, pal, so do us all a favor and say your lines in American. Anyway, back in the main story, the military contacts Nick for a very important mission.
Dr. Nico Topopoulos? It's the Topoulos. Whatever.
We're gonna pretend that gag is funny no matter what. Apparently, the Army's brought Nick here to study a shot from the movie's trailer. Well, the tagline said, "Size does matter," and judging by those footprints, Godzilla must really be packing. Oh, but just wait, we got more characters to get to.
I always thought they were a little small.
Yeah, there's Maria Patillo as Audrey, aka the girl Nick still carries pictures of wherever he goes. And they really seem made for each other in that she's also bland and has way too much screen time for how bland she is. Oh, and we've also got Harry Shearer as Kent Brockman. Yeah, that's not his name, but it's Harry Shearer and he's playing a reporter, so I'm calling him Kent Brockman. Audrey wants to be a reporter, and this is really important, you guys. Godzilla can wait.
Why don't we talk about it over dinner tonight? Your place.
Mr. Kamen, you're married.
Yes, and you're very beautiful.
What, you're trying to get sex in exchange for a promotion? Who the hell do you think you are, one of the movie's producers? Anyway, how's Nick doing?
How did Mrs. Tadopoulos handle that?
Tadopoulos.
It's the Topoulos.
Still going with that gag, huh? Look, these shots from the trailer are nice and all, but I still don't know how Dr. Nicopopoulos is supposed to help. Well, what do we have here? Fishing boats on a stormy night in a monster movie? These guys are definitely safe. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms taught me that. Actually, now that I think about it, not only did the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms also have a scene where he attacked a fishing boat, but it was at roughly this point in the movie, too.
Yeah, didn't you see Angry Video Game Nerd? This movie is basically not even really a Godzilla movie. It's a remake of Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Like, really? Really?
Huh. Well, I'm sure nobody's ever made that comparison before. Once again, I don't hate the build-up in this movie. Having Godzilla pull some fishing boats underwater is a good way to tease the monster without actually showing it yet. And while you might expect this to be a typical late 90s dated CGI fest, there's actually some really good practical effects work here. Even the fake out where you think Godzilla's coming up out of the water, but it's just one of the boats is actually kind of clever. Oh shit. I'm actually saying something positive about this movie. That's not how this video was supposed to go.
What about the traces of radiation?
Hey, now we're back to something boring. That's more like it. So you got any theories on what this thing is, Dr. Coppertopoulos?
This animal is much too big to be some kind of lost dinosaur.
Yeah, what do you think this is? Some kind of Godzilla movie or something? Nick theorizes that the monster is a mutated radioactive iguana caused by nuclear testing.
And even according to you, Brandon, Godzilla has not always been a dinosaur. Remember Godzilla 2016? What is it? Shin Godzilla? He was, what was he? He was a tadpole that was brought, I don't know, it was something weird. Oh, and what is it? Godzilla, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. I'm not saying the whole title. Yeah, that one, he was literally the manifestation of soldiers that died in World War II, which is like, what? And that's why I'm like, why is this weird for you? We've seen weirder. I know it came after, but it's still been weirder.
Because sure, that's way more believable than a mutated radioactive dinosaur.
We're looking at a completely incipient creature, the dawn of a new species.
Well, it won't be the dawn of a new franchise, that's for sure. The best you're gonna get is a cartoon series that lasts for a couple seasons. Meanwhile, in the Gotham Apple, we've already got Harry Shearer in this movie, so why not Hank Azaria too? And if you're wondering what his name is...
You don't think that's true, do you, Animal?
Hey, Hank Azaria wasn't the voice of Animal. They should have called him Venom. Alright, I joke, but Hank Azaria is one of the only somewhat entertaining characters in this.
Your life doesn't suck.
Hey, come on, man.
His life sucks.
If I'm married to you.
Seriously, I wish this movie focused more on Hank Azaria and his wife more than Nick and his romance with Audrey. And speaking of which...
Who is he? He was my college sweetie.
Well, just wait till you see the shrine he made to you all these years later. Oh yeah, I'm still bringing that up. But as dull as our two leads may be, they're still not the most embarrassing characters in this.
Your mayor, Mayor Ebert!
Mayor Ebert, huh? Well, this character is clearly a thinly veiled jab at film critic Leonard Maltin. Alright, that's not true. Leonard Maltin's one of the only mainstream critics that actually kinda liked this movie. So in one of the most petty moves in blockbuster history, Roland Emmerich actually included a character that was not only based off Roger Ebert, but is even named after him too. He did this to get back at Ebert for giving negative reviews to his previous movies like Stargate and Independence Day.
I hated this movie.
Well, if you didn't like what critics had to say about those movies, just wait until the reviews for this one start coming in. And come on, movie, I already mentioned the teaser trailer with the fisherman, no need to show it again. Although, to be fair, it was a good teaser. It's a shame the movie doesn't include the shot of Godzilla's eyeball, though. Godzilla comes ashore in the New York fish market, which coincidentally is also where the beast from 20,000 Fathoms first appeared. Are we sure this is Godzilla and not the Radosaurus?
This animal is much too big to be some kind of lost dinosaur.
Okay, guess I'll take your word for it, Dr. Snuffleupagus.
It's Tenold.
Yeah, whatever, who gives a shit?
You're doing
Weirdly
it too,
enough,
aren't you?
even though he's now rampaging through New York, the movie still hides his appearance. But don't worry, I'll get to that later. And hey, we've already got two Simpsons voice actors with Hank Azaria and Harry Shearer, so why not make it a trifecta and add Nancy Cartwright too? Jesus, Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Godzilla? Regarding the effects here, the CGI is obviously dated by today's standards, but it's fine for when this came out. Like I've said many times before, there are plenty of way worse examples of 90s CGI out there. And contrary to what you may think, there's actually a decent amount of practical effects work in this movie. Particularly good is the model work on the buildings. There's some shots that you might think are real cityscapes, but they're actually miniatures. Okay, I mentioned some good stuff, so now... time to go back to the bad.
So, did this Romeo have a name?
Nick
Nick Totopoulos.
Jesus. Is that why you dumped him?
Oh, what? She dumped him because she could actually say his name correctly?
It's the Topolis.
Girl, I'm surprised he didn't ask you to marry him. Well, that's the problem. He did.
And he still hasn't moved on after all these years?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, he's even worse than I thought.
Alright, enough of this shit. Time for Hank Azaria to make a found footage movie about Godzilla. You can call it Zilla Field.
Oh, nice job, Godzilla. You killed Hank Azaria. Now how are people supposed to try and cancel a poo in 20 years?
Just kidding, he's not dead. Hank's one of the only entertaining characters in this. They can't kill him. Okay, so now that Godzilla's in New York, does that mean the army's gonna try and take care of him?
We lost sight of it, sir. After its initial attack, he disappeared.
How could something that big just disappear?
I don't understand. How could something so big just disappear?
Yeah, that's what I said.
So apparently Godzilla's hiding somewhere in the middle of Manhattan. Maybe he ducked into a bodega and is hiding in the bathroom.
And you know what? In The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, the monster was able to hide from the army in the middle of New York somehow, too. Well, this may not be much of a Godzilla movie, but so far it's a pretty accurate remake of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
I've actually never
That
seen
makes
that.
sense. Roland Emmerich did already remake War of the Worlds. Okay, so Kent Brockman gives a report about how he welcomes our new giant lizard overlords. Audrey sees Nick on TV and decides to steal Harry Shearer's press badge so she can use it herself. And she's also staying with Hank Azaria and his wife. Damn it, where's Godzilla? I don't care about any of this. Oh, and if you were wondering why the movie included a Mayor Ebert but no Siskel, don't worry, they have that too.
He's right there.
Back off, Gene.
Oh, I get it. The bald guy's clearly based off Gene Shalit.
Meanwhile, Jean Reno's back, because as we've already established, this is all the Frenchie's fault. Alright, have you guys found Godzilla yet?
We have a strong reason to believe it may be hiding inside one of the buildings within the restricted area.
Okay, so go look for the building with a giant tail sticking out of it and go get him.
Bad news, Godzilla's actually hiding in the subway system. Good news, he ate all of those annoying subway performers. How the hell are they gonna catch this thing?
All we need to do is to find out what he needs. And he'll come to you.
Oh, so you're saying we should dress up a robot like a sexy Girlzilla, then blow it up when he goes in for a kiss?
Yes, the Sonic the Hedgehog TV show. And not even the good one, not even Sonic's at AM. I'm talking about...
Gotcha.
Nah, they don't do that. Instead, they try to lure him out into the open using a shitload of fish.
That's a lot of fish.
I like the way I put it better.
Look at all that friggin' fish.
Yeah, something tells me he didn't originally say friggin' there.
I don't know if the fish is gonna attract Godzilla, but judging by this camera move, it might attract Jaws. Eventually, Godzilla does show up, finally allowing us to get a good look at him, and... Yep, he sure does look like an iguana, albeit one with a chin that would make Bruce Campbell jealous.
Okay, I gotta be honest, I actually don't think this is a bad monster design. It's just not very... Godzilla.
And this is especially true when you compare it to the design that Stan Winston came up with a few years earlier. Oh hey, look at that. It looks like the classic Godzilla, just updated. It's instantly recognizable, just without the jankiness of some of the old suits. Not only that, but Stan Winston's design for the monster that Godzilla would have fought in that movie is pretty badass too.
So of course, they didn't go with it. Oh well, I guess it's fun speculating what could have been.
Okay, Godzilla's chowing down on the fish. Now fire away, boys.
We need bigger guns.
Alright, fine, you can get a line for the trailer in first.
Unlike the Japanese version, this Godzilla isn't immune to conventional weapons, which means the army should be able to take care of him no problem, right?
Idiots!
Now that he's been attacked, Godzilla promptly responds by... running away.
Yeah.
And this right here is one of the main reasons G fans didn't like this movie.
In the Japanese movies, Godzilla's an unstoppable force of nature that's similar to a walking earthquake or nuclear explosion. In this movie, he's a scared animal running for his life.
Now some of you...
You know, it would have been cool if they would have mutated him somehow, or that he was mutated during nuclear testing. What if he kept mutating, and then he would have started being even harder and harder to kill. Instead of putting the stupid baby's eggs subplot around, you could have just made the movie that way. Like, I could have easily fixed this movie and made it more lovable to G fans. I know they probably wouldn't have been able to kill him, but normal Godzilla movies usually get away with that. Or they could have even made the oxygen destroyer. But no, this idiot. That's why, because that's what happens when you get an idiot who doesn't like the original source material to direct your monster movie. Idiots.
You were probably thinking, well, an animal would run away if it was being shot at.
But not Godzilla.
That's just the point. It's not a regular animal, it's Godzilla. He's supposed to fearlessly face down the military, not run away from them.
Let me put it another way. It's perfectly normal for a regular human to run away if they're being shot at, but if Superman did that in a movie, audiences would be like, wait a second, that's not right.
You know, he's not some enemy trying to evade you. He's just an animal.
No, he's not. He's the king of the monsters, not a rabbit trying to avoid getting shot by a hunter.
Roland Emmerich said he wanted his Godzilla to be fast and agile as opposed to slow and lumbering like in the Japanese films, which is fine. I just wish he didn't use his speed to run away like a bitch. So if this Godzilla isn't as tough as the original and doesn't want to fight, why doesn't the army just take him out right away?
It's because the army can't aim worth shit in this movie, that's why.
Okay, I've made jokes about the Japanese military in the old Godzilla movies being bad shots, but there was a reason for that. They had to avoid hitting Godzilla since they couldn't just set the suit actor on fire. Well, not too much anyway. But the old movies still gave a sense of Godzilla's indestructibility, and besides, the army in the old Godzilla movies are sharpshooters compared to the military in this film. Seriously, the army causes more property damage than Godzilla does in this movie.
You've caused more damage than that goddamn thing did!
See, even the movie agrees with me.
It's no secret that Roland Emmerich is a big fan of blowing up famous landmarks, which you would think would make him a natural fit for a Godzilla film, but Godzilla barely causes any destruction in this movie. It's mostly the army. And not only can they not seem to hit him, they can't even see him either.
I think I lost him.
So apparently Godzilla was supposed to have the ability to blend into his surroundings like a chameleon, but this was abandoned in pre-production. They should have kept it in though, since without it, the army just looks stupid.
Where'd he go?
I can't believe it. I mean, he did all of this and we did nothing to him.
I mean, you did try to kill him. It's not his fault you're terrible at it.
But enough about hunting Godzilla. We need to go back to the romance subplot because that's real important, apparently.
Audrey? Oh my god, is it Audrey? Is that you?
Wow, I still haven't washed that sock I swiped from your dorm room in college.
What?
Nothing. Oh, and while these two are catching up, Nick makes a very important discovery about Godzilla.
He's pregnant.
Okay, here's hoping the kid doesn't look like this. Last thing we need is more of those crawling around.
Okay, now that you know Nick still hasn't gotten over you after 10 years, time to steal some of his tapes. Who knows, maybe you're secretly on some of them. Meanwhile, the military continues to look for Godzilla, although their search is not helped by the fact that none of these idiots seem to have any peripheral vision.
Anything? Nothing down here. Nothing at all.
Like, how did the other guy not see
even
it?
if the one guy somehow didn't notice that, how did this guy not see it?
And that's not the only thing that doesn't make sense.
I always thought that the guy actually turned around, like, as soon as he said, nothing there, nothing at all, and then he just turned around as soon as he said it. That's a stretch, but even still, sounds dumb, doesn't it?
In this movie.
Why does everyone in this movie have so much trouble saying Nick's name? Tatopoulos. See, it's not hard.
Okay, so Audrey steals some of Nick's tapes to further her career, but then Harry Shearer steals it, and the army doesn't believe Nick's theory that Godzilla's pregnant, and also gets mad at him for Audrey leaking the footage and kicks him out, so now Nick's mad at Audrey. You know, this movie is almost 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and this whole third act breakup midsection really bloats it. They should have cut a lot of this chick flick shit.
Wow, I can't believe the director of Independence Day made a movie that's too long and has too many characters.
Anyway, while he's trying to go to the airport, Nick ends up getting kidnapped by Jean Reno.
Hey, I know you, don't I?
You're the guy from Onimusha 3.
Agent Philippe Roche, French Secret Service.
We are like the regular Secret Service, except we do not wear deodorant. But we still make very passionate lovers.
Oh, I'm sorry, was that joke too stereotypical?
No croissant? Oh, you got this coffee? You said this was French roast.
Ah oui, regardez. C'est marqué French roast.
Yeah, wouldn't want to drag this movie down by resorting to French stereotypes.
I see the French have plenty of guns. Here's hoping they can actually aim with them. The French want Nick to help them find Godzilla's nest. And hey, look, Hank Azaria's back. And as long as I'm naming stuff I like about this movie...
Oh, they're playing Deeper Underground by Jamiroquai.
Oh.
Pretty good song. Hell of a lot better than that Puff Daddy one they played all the time when this came out, that's for sure.
Anyway, Animal tells Audrey about Nick and the French trying to find Godzilla's nest.
What, you want me to follow him into the city?
Yeah, we both will.
Can just Hank Azaria follow him?
Or fine, you can both go. Meanwhile, Nick and the French try to infiltrate the sewers using Jean Reno's impeccable American accent.
You got a problem talking? Well, no, sir, I'm fine.
Elvis Presley movies. What's the king?
Oh, I get it. Elvis was the king of rock and roll, and Godzilla's the king of the monsters. The original is. This one's a scared little bitch who runs away from the military.
Speaking of which, while our main characters make their way underground to try and find Godzilla's lair, the military tries to lure him into Central Park with more fish.
Look at all that friggin' fish.
However, Godzilla doesn't fall for it this time, and the army is forced to pursue him through the streets with helicopters again.
Yeah.
And see if you can guess what this leads to. That's right, the army blowing up more buildings. Because when you watch a Godzilla movie, you want to see the army do all the property damage and not Godzilla.
Jeez, good thing Roland Emmerich never made a Friday the 13th movie. Instead of Jason doing all the killing, it'd just be the campers committing suicide for 2 hours. Godzilla tries to escape by doing his best Free Willy impression into the Hudson River. And I gotta say, very minimal splash. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a 9 for that one. However, the military has some submarines waiting there for him.
And once again, see if you can guess what happens here.
The subs fire some torpedoes at him, and...
I mean, it's beyond a joke at this point. These guys couldn't hit the broadside of a barn if they were in the middle of fucking Iowa. I think they'd have more success trying to get Godzilla if they just turned their guns around and tried to shoot themselves.
They keep trying to hit Godzilla, though. Hopefully they don't accidentally blow up the Statue of Liberty doing this.
Direct hit!
Congratulations, fellas, you finally hit Godzilla. Maybe.
Nah, Godzilla's not dead. There's still 50 minutes of this movie left. Meanwhile, Nick and the Frenchies discover that Godzilla's made his nest in Madison Square Garden. At least I think this is his nest. It looks more like somebody left an Alien ripoff here.
3 eggs. I thought there'd be more.
And you were right.
Okay, so does every character in this movie just not have peripheral vision?
Damn, looks like Godzilla's been really busy laying eggs. Now, I've been making some comparisons to the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms here. This part is a little different, but having Godzilla lay a bunch of eggs is kind of similar to the Radosaurus carrying a deadly disease, in the sense that it's a late addition to the movie to try and make the monster more of a threat, since neither the Radosaurus or this Godzilla are immune to conventional weapons like the original Godzilla was. Well, okay, there is another reason for this part. Yeah, that's right. It's because they needed to rip off Jurassic Park and have some raptor Godzillas.
Roland Emmerich may not be a fan of Godzilla, but if you watch my video on Making Contact, he is a big fan of Steven Spielberg.
All right. To say something positive here, some of the practical effects on the Babyzillas here are pretty decent, and they are both cuter and more threatening than you-know-who. But all I can say is you fuckers better not kill Hank Azaria.
Whoa! This is where the Knicks, get showered and everything.
All right, even if that was a dumb joke, it's still funnier than naming a character Mayor Ebert.
Quick, in case of overblown blockbuster, break glass. Philippe tells Nick to call in an airstrike. Hey, there's a great way to defeat these things. Just pretend it's a Call of Duty game.
Or a Three Stooges short.
Unfortunately, it's the 90s and Nick forgot to use 1-800-COLLECT, which means he's not able to get through.
Oh, this is like
This is not good.
Alright, I know that's what most of the reviews said joke is a little too easy, but you're kind of teeing me up for him here, movie.
Alright, the extraneous characters have been killed and the main characters have been conveniently reunited. Now they better figure out a way to contact the outside before these things escape. That is, of course, if they didn't already escape through the giant gaping hole everybody came through earlier, but the movie seems to have forgotten about that. Anyway, how are you gonna tell everybody about these things?
Come on, the broadcast booth is right over here. The network is on an internet.
Ooh.
To be on an internet. Okay. To be fair, I think I can explain the whole thing because they were technically following all the humans out there, and if they go down a sheer drop, what are they going to do? They can't really dig. I mean, they can't go down a previously done hole. They'll fall right through and kill themselves or hurt themselves, probably.
An internet? What is this magical technology you speak of?
Audrey broadcasts live so the military can see the eggs are in Madison Square Garden. Plus, I'm sure this completes some character arc that shows she's capable of being a real reporter. Whatever, I don't care. And I think there's a pretty easy solution to this baby Zilla problem. Just put them all in a theater playing Snow White and blow it up.
Let me spell it out for you. I want you to blow up Madison Square Garden.
Or just blow up Madison Square Garden. This is a Roland Emmerich movie, after all.
They better get the hell out of here before the place explodes, but first they'll have to make their way past Godzilla World Fallen Kingdom.
Wow.
How much time do we have left?
Almost half an hour. This movie really is too long.
Alright, let's get this baby Zilla plotline wrapped up. The military blows up yet another New York landmark, except this time they actually meant to do it. Blowing up Madison Square Garden may not be as iconic as the White House exploding in Independence Day, but hey, I still kind of miss the days when big-budget Hollywood movies would still do miniature effect explosions.
Okay, so they got all the babies, and they supposedly killed Godzilla earlier, so...
What's else to
Does
do?
that mean the movie's over? How is there still 25 minutes left?
Oh shit, Zilla just realized you killed all 50 of its firstborn children. And it's so pissed off it might actually chase after you instead of running away this time. So we get a big climactic chase sequence featuring more big loud Roland Emmerich destruction. But hey, at least it's actually Godzilla doing most of it this time. Normally a scene like this would be exciting, but considering we're now about 2 hours in, I'm kinda waiting for the movie to be over.
Now you may have noticed that in this movie Godzilla hasn't used his trademark atomic breath. Well, that's because Roland Emmerich didn't want to use it, which makes sense. I mean, this is a movie about a giant mutant iguana. Giving it atomic breath would just be unrealistic. But Godzilla does have a breath power in this movie.
You ignored it earlier.
Kind of. Okay, so apparently Godzilla belched and the air caught fire. I guess.
And if it looks like the fire wasn't originally supposed to be there and was added late in post-production, that's cause it was.
Whoa.
And oh hey look, the military. They're probably jealous that Godzilla's actually causing some property damage and not them.
He's back, sir. Godzilla is still alive.
Damn, I knew it was too much to hope we actually hit him. And speaking of the army not being able to hit Godzilla...
Listen to me, you guys have got to lure him out into the open so we can get a clear shot at him. Over.
You know, it doesn't matter if Godzilla's out in the open, you idiots still wouldn't hit him and you know it. You idiots could try shooting fish in a barrel and you just end up blowing up the Empire State Building somehow.
I guess it's a good thing the military can't hit Godzilla since this version is such a pussy scared of a car's high beams. So there's a part where the cab gets caught in Godzilla's mouth. Look, we're over the 2-hour point. Let's just wrap this up already. Godzilla ends up getting caught in the Brooklyn Bridge, which means the military now has a stationary target, although I have a feeling they'll still end up missing him somehow.
Congratulations, boys. You actually hit the thing you were aiming for. I knew you could do it.
And that's how Godzilla dies in this movie, after being hit with a few missiles. Jesus, no wonder the original version kicked this one's ass so easily in Final Wars. Oh, and does this part where Matthew Broderick watches Godzilla die by listening to his heartbeat slowly stop seem familiar at all?
Oh yeah? That one?
You know your monster movie remake is misguided when it actually rips off the ending of another disliked remake.
And so the day is saved thanks to the brave efforts of the military, who also almost destroyed New York. Oh, and I guess Nick and Audrey are a couple again? Whatever, I don't care. Plus, the movie has to get another Siskel and Ebert jab in.
You know what I think about you and your campaign?
Look, that's what most of the reviews of this movie are going to be like anyway. Might as well try and get ahead of them.
And of course, we got a sequel bait. We put way too much into the marketing not to.
Oh, sorry, but that Saturday morning cartoon series is all you're gonna get. Although on the plus side, most people will like it a lot better than this movie.
Godzilla 1998 is usually considered a box office bomb, but that's not really true. It was technically profitable and ended up becoming the third highest grossing movie of 1998. However, considering it made less than half of what Independence Day did a couple years earlier, this was still way below what the studio anticipated, and combined with the film's huge marketing costs, it meant that Godzilla wasn't the mega hit that TriStar was hoping for. Despite this, though, there were initially plans for a sequel, which would have involved the Godzilla scene hatching at the end of the movie growing up and fighting a giant insect monster called Queen Bitch.
Alright, I gotta admit, for as many problems as this movie has, if they made a sequel called Godzilla vs. Queen Bitch, I might have gone to see it.
Ultimately, though, the negative fan and critical reception meant that plans for a sequel were scrapped, with the cartoon series being the only continuation of the film. It wouldn't be until 2014 that America would take another crack at the King of the Monsters with the Legendary Pictures Godzilla.
So, is the 1998 Godzilla as bad as people say? Well, this is probably going to surprise a lot of people, but I'm going to say no. Well, not entirely.
Okay, don't get me wrong, there are a ton of problems with this movie. There's plot holes all over the place, all of the characters with the exception of Jean Reno and Hank Azaria are boring, and the movie's about 20 or 30 minutes longer than it should be. But as far as late 90s popcorn flicks go, it's fine. Like I said, some of the practical effects work here is still pretty impressive even 25 years later, and there are some entertaining moments to be found. In fact, I'd actually put this above something like Armageddon, which has a lot of the same problems as this movie except worse, but for some reason made more money and got less shit than this did.
I never understood that either. I always saw that movie. I always thought that movie sucked. I don't remember it at all. I think I only saw it once. I saw it once when that came out. I never liked it.
It's big, it's loud, it's stupid, it's a Roland Emmerich movie. But do I think it's uniquely terrible among 90s blockbusters? Nah.
Not only is it not one of the worst movies of all time, it's not even the worst Roland Emmerich movie. And when taken for what it is, it's okay.
However, as a depiction of the character Godzilla, it's pretty bad.
I mentioned that Roland Emmerich didn't like Godzilla, and yeah, you can tell this was made by somebody who isn't a fan. Things like Godzilla's atomic breath and invulnerability to conventional weapons are so intrinsically tied to his character that it's no wonder fans were disappointed here. I don't mind that they made Godzilla fast and agile instead of slow and lumbering, but turning him into essentially a scared animal did a real disservice to the character. It's been said that this movie took the god out of Godzilla, to the point that a lot of fans refused to even call the monster in this movie Godzilla. Instead, they call him either Zilla or Gino, which means Godzilla in name only. Even Toho ended up taking some shots at this version of Godzilla. I mentioned his appearance in Godzilla Final Wars, but there's also this part of GMK.
The New York attack was Godzilla, right? That's what all the American experts claim. But our guys here have doubts.
As some other people have pointed out, if they said this was a remake of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, that would actually be more accurate. It would still be a dumb popcorn movie, but at least
people wouldn't have been so pissed off about it.
Godzilla fans wouldn't be as angry, but no, they had to go for the name recognition. What they did not get was the essence of the character.
Wow, 300 episodes. I gotta admit, when I first started, I never really thought I'd make it this far, but I'm glad I have. So let's see if we can go for 400. Well, that's all for now. Until next time.
You'll do it, dude. Boy, that was a nostalgia trip. Like, again, I haven't seen that movie in so long. Man, it's I disagree though. I don't think it's that long. I'm never bored by it, you know? I feel like I'm the only one though. I've never been bored by the movie. I don't know. I never hated it that much. But he also brings up really good points. He brings up the fact that, you know, yeah, it's not a good Godzilla movie at all. Like, as far as Godzilla is concerned, it doesn't understand the character. And again, I don't understand why they had to get a guy who hated it. I don't. But I think the only reason why he got that movie is because he made Independence Day and it was a huge blockbuster. I think that was it. So Hollywood's freaking lazy, aren't they? But hey, things don't change, do they? Well, anyway, please smash that like button if you want to see more sexy and nerdy content, and subscribe if you think I deserve it. And I'll see you on the next episode.